Hello, everyone. I'm Wendy Liebman, CEO and Chief Shopper at WSL Strategic Retail, and this is Future Shop. I'm not going to do the big long spiel because my guest is often my guest today. My guest today, who is dialing in from London, is Justin Honaman, and his title just keeps getting bigger. Global Head, Retail, Restaurants, and Consumer Goods Business Development Growth, Amazon Web Service. Is that right?
That's it. I mean, it it's simple. Retail, restaurants, and consumer goods, and how do we grow their business? Bottom line.
Sounds like everything. So before we get started, don't forget, as always, if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please do that. I hate to keep nagging you, but some of you still have not. Anywhere you get your podcast, don't forget to just hit subscribe, and then we'll know you're there. Good for our KPIs. And we can make sure we keep delivering the kind of content you want. Now, let's get on to my interview. Welcome, Justin. Nice to see you. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
I know. I always look forward to these. I think the last time you actually spoke to our customer advisory board, which was a lot of fun to have you come talk to our group of customers. That was a blast.
Yeah. They were also, for everybody, this was a wonderfully diverse group that Justin brings together, all very focused on new technologies across industries. Really great. I learned as much as I hopefully shared. So thank you for having me for that. And I look forward to meeting them again soon, somewhere around the world.
No, it was great. You actually came. Yeah, we host a retail customer advisory board, and then also a consumer goods version of that. Yeah, I mean, it's been an excellent and interesting way to help them to connect in the industry, connect with their peers, share ideas. Especially technology is moving so fast right now, and the digital pieces are moving so quickly. And having people like you come and give perspective on the market and insights was super valuable.
Yeah, and great for me to learn from the other side. So anyway, thank you for that. Well, I know you're in London. I feel like it's a global crazy world, much is going on, but there's, a lot going on economically. The retail sales just came out, and, on the one hand, shoppers tell us in all our new How America Shops Work, soon to be published, that they're increasingly pessimistic about the future of their finances and their family finances. And on the other hand, they were out shopping, at least in the US, this last month. What are you seeing in that space now as you look across all your businesses?
Yeah, it's interesting. I could share a couple of big buckets of focus for our customers in these industries that you highlighted earlier. The first would be mentioned. We're not hearing as much about inflation. There's still some talk of tariffs and the potential impact, but what's the impact of commodity prices on margin for a consumer goods brand, and then those prices on product to retailers and then to consumers. So there's still a lot of discussion and analysis, and I'd say some tension there, although a lot of that has somewhat calmed down a bit, but we see a lot of customers now investing in technology to get better access to insights, right? The second is supply chain. And I tell our customers they should just always expect there to be the next disruption. So how do you prepare for that? And so whether that be, doesn't matter if it's a barge that gets stuck or geopolitical tensions, there's going to be challenges. So how do you get better at forecasting, planning, inventory visibility? Of course, AI. I mean, and we'll talk about AI in a few minutes, but it's just changing like weekly, it feels like. And many customers don't know what to do or what to think or where to focus. And then the last area is interesting, like loyalty is hot, personalization and search are top of mind. And then this whole idea of like, how do you engage customers across channels and keep up with their movement and stay in front of them? Those are some top of mind topics.
Yeah. So interesting you say that. So this new work that's literally just out of the field, and now we're making sense of it all in our latest How America Shops study, which we have titled How America Shops in Chaos. It addresses so many of the things that you just talked about, because it's as if it's this normalization of chaos, the anticipation that shoppers have, like you're advising your clients to think about, is that this has been going on for a long time. The slow boil of chaos. I mean, we went back and looked at 2008, the advantages of longevity, which was this sort of moment in time where you woke up in the morning, 2007, 8, and the world had ended financially. And it was a massive adjustment coming off September 11, coming
That's right.
into all of the chaos that came out of 2007, 8, the wars. And then we came to COVID. So these quote unquote black swan events that were
Right.
just massive overnight. But through all this, people are telling us or showing us that really they're adapting to the chaos, and it's part of this wave of how they deal with things now. And then all the tools, all the things you're talking about, the level of information, the level of search they can do, all the places they can buy, to get a better price or better accessibility. So it's a really interesting tension, but it's like the never normal has become the now normal, the everyday. So
Yeah.
it
And I
just
think,
all we're seeing.
yeah, and most leaders and most organizations, regardless of industry, are now leaning into that idea. And how do I be prepared for not 5 years out? Like a 5 year plan, when I hear someone say that, I kind of cringe.
Mhm,
Like, how about 2 or 3 years? Because, and some of these digital topics we've discussed on just since I've known you have
mhm,
shifted dramatically in just less
yeah,
than a year or two. So,
mhm,
but we're seeing more leadership teams lean in and be very interested in new thinking, breaking down silos of work that are there traditionally, like in a consumer goods environment. And I think that that's leading to, it's starting to differentiate customers in the marketplace and with their customer.
yeah. It's interesting you say that as well, is that, a couple of weeks ago, as you know, we were in Boston,
Yeah.
where we co-sponsored with the Emerson Group, one of their Future of Commerce 2030 events. And we had on one of the panels, head of digital for food service at PepsiCo. And so all their food service businesses. And Andre talked about having like these 10 tests going on at once because you don't know how things are going to change in the next year or 2 years. So you need to begin broadly. And then as you learn something, you say, that doesn't work, get rid of that, add something, and refining it till maybe you've got 5 tests going on in innovation, data, digital marketing, all of these things. And it was such an interesting framework. It's based on what you just said, the speed of change, and a 5-year plan, the way we used to construct it, is not really realistic anymore.
Yeah, so a
Yeah.
couple of thoughts there. I mean, you have a PepsiCo, that a strategic customer of ours, as you know, and they have the scale and scope to try many different things, right? And have the people and in when you're in the cloud, for example, you can try things, turn them on, turn them off.
Hmm.
On the other side, though, there are smaller brands, smaller retailers that don't have the resources, the people, the the entire IT team, the data team, the AI team, the ML team. Like, they're operating on spreadsheets today, making pricing decisions, and so you do have this dichotomy of, like, the larger companies having the scale and scope to try and many different things, but the mid-size, even to smaller,
Yeah.
I think that's a struggle.
Yeah. Well, and even to your point about, tariffs and the chaos from that, just talking to somebody in the children's apparel business and, they don't have the resources to be able to live with the wave again of chaotic times, and trying to figure out, how do you deal with that? How do you, think about supply chain? How do you move from one country to another quickly? All of those things. So it does feel like, from a shopper perspective, people are sort of figuring it out for themselves at this moment. But as you say, from a company perspective, there is that, big companies versus small, medium, and all of that. Are you seeing industries better able? Is it an industry, or is it a size, or is it a leadership? What are you seeing there that
Yeah.
would frame up some of this, how they
Yeah,
manage it?
the digital native brands or the e-commerce pure plays certainly can flex more quickly because they don't have the legacy debt of a major 100-year-old, 100-plus-year-old retail brand or a consumer goods brand. We got a lot of different systems and antiquated, and difficult, quite frankly, to move or to think different. And then I would say, depending on, like, if you go into the consumer goods industry, you see innovation happening in different ways. Some is around product innovation, some is around delivery and supply chain innovation, which I think we'll talk about a little more today. And
Hmm.
then some is around, like, they're accelerating their tech and digital stack. But then there's others that is just not a priority, right? They're trying to just run the business and manage with the resources that they have. On the retail side, the retailers that are really focused on customer experience, on are that are diversifying their channel mix and product by channel in terms of how they go to market, how they sell, how they engage customers. Like they're the ones that are really doing well right now, and they're able to serve the premium market and also those that are kind of wannabe premium that are on the curve towards
Hmm.
that. And then of course in the retail space, like discount, you look at, the TJX companies and others like that, I mean, doing extremely well, right? Because of how they serve their customer and the product mix and pricing.
Yeah, yeah. Being on the road and, like you, always spending time in stores. I marvel at the speed of somebody like a TJX, that corporation. But I also, you walk into like a Five Below and they take a trend, all the dupes in beauty and fashion, beauty, how they replicate that in about 2 seconds, how they, add categories that they didn't have before, thinking about beverages. I mean, the speed at which they're adapting to trend, even in that basically physical space, or the growth of Aldi's and Lidl's. I just
Sure.
noticed up
Great
here,
market.
5th Avenue at 28th Street, there's a Lidl opening. I mean, whatever, right? So all of that in what you're saying in terms of adaptability and speed, big or small. Yeah, really,
Yeah,
really
and
interesting. And your
look at
purview,
Amazon. Yeah, look at
yes,
Amazon, where actually we just announced we're opening more physical stores. So
that's
in
right.
the Amazon Go stores and Fresh, where you're focused on the experience and blending in kind of the digital experience with the physical experience in those stores.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the airport again, and there was if it wasn't a Go store, it was Go technology
Right, the
that
Go Tech,
enabled me to
right.
get it. And then to your point about more physical stores, but also obviously Amazon's announcement that they're going to be delivering groceries fresh, more of fresh to more markets. I can't remember if it like was 1,000 markets, but a lot of places very fast. And that whole issue of, to your point about customer experience within that what's accessible to people today, that feels like it's a whole that it's not just affordability, it's accessibility, right?
Yeah, I mean, we work with not only our own grocery, of course, at Amazon in the physical space, but also the online space. And then the vast majority of grocers, both physical and like the delivery companies worldwide, run their business on Amazon's technology. So it's an area that's exploding. It's quite frankly, customers are expecting food delivery through your app, as you all know, that I just dropped on the floor, my phone, and expecting that to be fast. And in some markets, it's like 15 minutes. And so, I mean, like some countries, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
so in other markets, it's not quite that. But, getting what you want when you want it and be able to pay for that is certainly a customer expectation. And it's only being amped up more and more through the use of like better AI tools and whatnot to enable that experience.
Yeah, yeah, I was having that conversation with somebody today who was talking about how he was out of his favorite Jeff peanut butter and wasn't sure that he could get to the store. I said, "Well, there's an app for that."
Right.
I have a very strange bundle of odd things sitting on my desk here that you can't see, an adapter, a new book, and a skincare product that I'm about to, at lunchtime, hit Amazon, and they
Order.
will all show up in a minute, and that'll be it. It'll be
Right.
like, that's a
Yeah.
motley crew of things, but they're all things I need in a hurry, and they will show up in the next day or so.
Well, and in very dense cities like that, you really have an opportunity to do unique delivery capabilities. But I mean, even I live in Atlanta. If I want something today between 2 and 5, it's not too late.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's pretty incredible. And that's becoming an expectation, right? And when I go to a store and they're out of stock on something, and I look at my app and it's like I could have it 2 o'clock today. Why would I come back to that store?
That's it. And that is another conversation, I think. I mean, you talked about Amazon opening more physical stores as well for the experience side, but those retailers who have built their strategy on, the accessibility, the real estate on the corner, and, that we can just drop into, pick up the milk, pick up whatever. That model, be it a convenience store or a drugstore, we really have to think twice about now, right? In terms of the kinds of delivery options that we have.
Yeah, it's not just grocery. I mean, they're across categories. There are some retailers struggling with their physical store economics, I'll say. What's interesting is we often think about, and I said this on our last podcast, I think, North America, but you get outside of North America and malls are booming in the Middle East. You wouldn't believe it. Malls are booming in parts of Asia Pacific. Malls in Atlanta are empty, except for the new walkable, livable restaurant,
Right.
those types of malls. It's really interesting. And from a retail strategy perspective, your physical store strategy has to match the market, and the market is different and not just North America centric. And I just feel like sometimes we collective, me and team, have to be careful not to catch ourselves into into the North America view only.
Yeah. And I think that's always been interesting to me because, we go to other events and conferences around the world. And of course, you and I have the luxury of, traveling around the world and seeing this. I always remark it's something like being in Japan, where there's the 7-Eleven home of, and that convenience model of what that looks like there, and then going into some amazing either flagship Shiseido store or Takashima and seeing that very high end experience and lots of people and technology and service. And you're right, here you can walk through most malls or department stores and not
Mm,
see anything. So I
this is
think,
very different.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
different.
Well, you're in London. I mean, you look at, the Battersea Power Station that they've turned into an
Yeah,
extraordinary
amazing.
shopping experience in addition to high street, Boots and Tesco and all the others are Marks and Spencers. So, as we've always said, really important to get out and not just assume that we know it all because we're here. So, all
Like,
of those
and
things,
anyway,
right?
yeah, gotta get in the market it's like I have said earlier, if you wanna be involved in retail and consumer goods, you gotta be involved in the industry. You can't just pretend like or read an email newsletter every week. If you wanna be involved in the market with your customers, you gotta be there with your customers. You can't pretend like you know what's going on in Dubai or Abu Dhabi or, Bangkok or Singapore. Like, to understand that market in our world, you gotta be invested in there with your customers.
Yeah, I think a really good example is Aldi and Lidl again, because, those of us who had the luxury of either traveling and watching those companies grow, and look
Hey,
at it in Australia, where they took like 20% of the grocery market overnight, virtually. And you look at that dynamic and you say, well, no, that doesn't apply here. And da da, now it does.
right.
So
Yeah, it's
you're
important to
right.
think about that.
Tremendous, tremendous learning. I think talking to the Costco people not so long ago and just thinking about how they've adapted to all these countries, it's mind-boggling. The other thing that struck me is there was a conversation, I think it was in the New York Times, about AI and really seeing the impact of AI and that it being a very long-term view from the point of view of some of the major CEOs of big companies. How are you seeing people view AI again on this journey we've been on over the last year or two?
It's interesting, you and I did the Emerson Industry Days event. I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, and that was my topic then, and it was early days even then, but I think even then I, went into our large language model and asked it to write a song based on the theory of the event, and I had lyrics in about 35 seconds, right? And so,
Right.
that was like so mind-blowing then. Then we kinda moved into, if for those that have been around the space for a little bit, kinda went from AI, machine learning's been around since the '50s, to generative AI really came out in the last 2.5, 3 years, kind of became big. And now you hear this word agentic, I'll park that just for a moment, but so where is it real? Continues to be very real in things like, if on your e-commerce listings, your AdWords, your titles, the summarization of reviews, the ability to write copy. I mean, you all know that. I'm hoping because you probably already have the tools for it. And if you don't, you could have the tools very easily. In the marketing space, of course, images, like, there's no reason anymore for anyone to just have an image with a white background. Like, sure, you could have that, but you could put those products in so many different places now with many different types of models. Amazing. You know, early this year, I thought the big thing for the year was gonna be video, short form video, and it has. We've seen some amazing, like, ads created by ad agencies actually using these large language models to create ads without, I mean, there's unbelievable, incredible, it takes, dollars, not millions, right? Thousands, not millions, to do this. So these are the places where it's really working and it's playing out. In the IT space, any IT person watching this should know, and they probably already do, that coding, using like text to create applications,
Mm,
unbelievable like accuracy.
yeah.
Those are where disruption's happening. That's where it's real. This whole idea of agentic, we won't get technical here, but like until January, I don't know that any really knew much about what that even is, let alone, you know, most companies are like, wait, I thought I was just getting into generative AI and
Right.
now it's this new thing. So yes, there's a lot of excitement around this whole idea of agents, agents doing shopping, agents doing supply chain. And yes, there's a lot of great potential there. I think we should park that for a future discussion where we can really dive into some examples. But, 6 or 7 months into the year here, that has become like the word to bring up. But then when you start digging deeper, most companies are still, kicking the tires on what it really means and what it could mean for them.
Yeah, yeah. I must say, I was scratching my head the other day working on our new study with our new research director. And of course, he's not totally familiar with everything we've done over the last number of years. So I'm like, wait a minute. What study was that in? I don't know. Did we ask the question that way? I'm like, oh, listen, here we go. We know how to solve that fast. But yeah, they're things like, our virtual librarian that can say, yes, yes, this
Right.
was the question. It was in this. All of those things where you certainly see in our world, and also our associate producer of this podcast, Krista, who's in the
Very nice.
behind the scenes. Yes,
Yes.
she does some amazing things for us on Instagram, social media, where
Incredible.
we're talking heads, and she's got amazing video behind us and imagery behind us, and all of those things. So certainly for companies our size, there's tremendous value, as it was in the days of I'll Google that before in the very beginning of I'll Google that.
I'll say this in the
Yes.
last 12 months, more line of business leaders have been wanting to dive in. And I think that's a great thing. Typically, marketing and supply chain, their line of business leaders want to like, they want to know and they want to explore and they want their analysts to try and test and just have access to the tools. Look, most of the companies that are watching this or listening to this, and I'm talking to you guys, not Wendy, just for a moment, your companies probably have access to these tool sets and you can use those within your environment. Like, you should test them out. Let your analysts run crazy. Let them put them spreadsheets and whatnot into your internal large language models, like within your environment, so it's secure and safe. But like, get those analysts, shopper marketing, customer insight, consumer insights, BI teams, analytics team, whatever you call them, get them in there and let them start testing these out. It's
Yeah.
pretty powerful.
Yeah. I marvel. I've just been playing around, as you have suggested, for some time now, and I listen beyond what Marianne, who is our producer and head of creative services, and many other things behind the scenes here today. This just playing around with things like Perplexity versus chat versus, all
Great
of
point.
these resources. And, you play around, and it is quite extraordinary. So, yeah, and listen to what Justin says. Whatever level you're at, take half an hour on a Sunday afternoon and play, because otherwise, yes.
Let me read a couple of stats for you. These are not from these are from Adobe Analytics. Like this came out just a quarter ago. This is, and we're recording this, by the way, in summer 2025 in case you listen to this later. So this is a couple months ago. 1,200% surge in AI-driven traffic to retail sites. Okay, so what that means is consumers or shoppers that are looking for product that traditionally would have gone to a search engine are using one of the apps you mentioned or other that are AI powered to find product. Okay, and then landing on a retail site. Okay, of that, 23% lower bounce rate of those people that come to their site to then convert. Okay, and then the conversion gap, it's gone from 43% to 9%. I mean, like, this is unbelievable. Like, if you think about retail shopping, the way you shop, the tools you use to shop and search, and then like, and then I think that's amazing to think about. But then think about the brands that sell on different platforms. Okay. If these agents are so good that I'm looking for this one set of shoes in this size, it can go look across all the platforms and find that shoe in the size at the best price without me having to go to all of them. Okay, what does that mean for your pricing strategy? What does that mean for, like, I mean, think about all the implications of that. So traditional e-commerce, I think, is ripe for disruption.
Yeah. No, I so agree with you on that. It is really
I
stunning. I
mean,
remember several, maybe even before you and I started to speak about this, somebody had said to me they had just used an AI tool. It was probably chat in the day because there was not much else out there. And I remember her saying, I found the perfect pair of shoes. I just put in the prompt. It wasn't brilliant. I didn't learn how to prompt yet, but I put it in and I found the right pair of shoes to go with the right outfit. All of the above, right? Now, the only thing I will tell you, I am struggling to find a new couch. So I don't know. My prompts are not good. And then, I have to go and sit on it. But I'm in this journey before New Year's Eve, to find a new
finding a new
couch.
couch.
So I am going to be Perplexity, whoever else that's out there. I'm going to be doing a lot of searching. You know
I
what'll
mean, for
happen.
those that don't know, Wendy lives in the city, like in a, you know, like the couch has got to be a certain size. It's not. This
That's
isn't a
right.
house in the suburbs of
Right.
Atlanta with big double doors, and
Right.
so it's got
Right.
certain requirements.
Indeed, and certain height, because as we get more mature, and we need certain height, we need whatever's. Will it go with this? Will it go? And more importantly, will it be delivered not in 25,000 weeks? So the requirements are very specific. But I am now on a journey to use agentic AI to find my perfect couch, so then I can go and sit on it somewhere and make sure it's fine before I buy it. But I need to do all that homework first,
It
and
could.
that's how
I
I'm going to
mean,
do it.
that's all available now. Like not only
I
the
know.
couch, but things that could recommend to go with it, and where you
Yes.
know, do you want me to go ahead and order that for you? And have it
Right.
delivered. Like I mean,
Yeah.
and these are again, I said this back in the Emerson thing. I felt this is the first inning. We're year zero. I still feel like that even now. Like it's changing weekly, biweekly, and the opportunity though for those that are listening, for consultants, for tech companies, is these companies who need help, like they don't know what's best for which use case, and like so the advisory piece of this is going to be significant. Think about the
Yeah.
idea of, we have this big company brand. We're not experts at the AI thing. We're good at making product and selling product. Can you guys being, consultant XYZ, can you guys just be our AI COE? Like you just come in and be that, because we don't know. Like you guys are best at that. So I think the op model and the business model for the big SIs is changing, the tech companies too. But this is where they're going to have to find where they can add value, because it's not going to
Yeah.
be in doing a business case on a brand. I can do that in
Yeah.
about 2 minutes right now.
Right.
One of
Right.
these
Well,
apps.
that it's so interesting that you said that, because I do recall, speaking of Emerson, the Emerson Group, who we all love, is that they had their interns a year ago. We were celebrating the 90th anniversary of NACDS, the National Association of Chain
Yep.
Drugstores, and it was, who are all the companies that might be of interest to invite, and literally their interns went away and came back within that afternoon and had the cheat sheet for every one of these companies. And senior management were like, how did you do that? And they were like, that. So there you go. So all
I
of those
mean,
things, yes, from a
unbelievable.
couch to
And it doesn't have to
insight.
be perfect. Some people
No,
might say, "Well,
that's
it's
right.
not perfect." Oh, it's okay. I'll take 80 or 90%,
That's right.
in a minute
Because
or
I'm not
two, and
either.
then I'll, right, and not. So yeah, you still need human in the loop and all that. But anyway, so there's a lot of excitement, energy around this topic still, but there's a lot of other things too that our
Yes.
customers are
Yeah.
working on and that the industry's
So,
focused on.
so what are you hearing lately as we wrap up? What's on your mind? What's on your customers' minds as you're thinking about, coming to, back to school is pretty much done,
Yeah,
most of the
done.
country, and then heading into Christmas. And the
Yep.
holidays? What's
I'd be
on
curious
people's
to
minds?
see
What are you hearing?
inventory. Be curious to see inventory positions for retailers. Were there issues in getting right product for holiday or not? I think that'll be very telling. Do we see price taken? Are there real price impacts from all the tariff discussion and what? I'm not sure there were. In some markets, there was a lot of discussion about it, no impact from it. So, will we see that? Will we see inflation continue to decrease in most markets, or are there some areas where we see that continue to be a challenge? A lot of companies are rethinking their people architecture, their
Hmm.
people structure,
Right.
the talent that they need, the skill sets you need to hire. So as we go into the new year, what are companies looking for? Are they preparing for the next 2 or 3 years? Or are they still looking in the rearview mirror and kind of backfilling roles because somebody left or because there was a hole? So I think that's going
Yeah.
to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I do think your point about inventory and price. Obviously, there are certain categories that are very, that are very important to holiday, and whether it is toys or fashion or technology, things like that. And so, thinking about those and how some of the bigger and smaller companies have been able to adapt to the changes to the tariffs, with their supply
Yeah.
chain, and then who's picking up the load if there is a load, or are people going to hold off until the new year and then say, okay, well, we were good soldiers, but we can't hold off price increases any longer. But it does feel like it's very category specific as well,
Yeah.
which I think is the other issue, right?
Yeah, I think that, there's been a lot of talk about dynamic pricing, which, there's tension in the market about the views on that. But that's going to be really interesting when you start thinking of this whole idea of I've got to manage price across platforms. When do I discount? When do I not discount? If I have to manage same price or consistent price across platforms, how do I do that? I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to be thought, or there's a lot to think about in that framework. And I just another whole area of consideration as we go into the new year, because that will be here sooner than we know it. Just like we were saying, a year ago, images were just okay. Now they're incredible. A year ago, we were able to make video. Okay. It's already incredible. The ability to make decisions on pricing recommendations and whatnot in our space will be significant.
Yeah, that feels to me like something you and I will talk about a lot moving
Yeah.
forward. That the whole issue about pricing consistency, not consistent, what's a value, what are people willing to pay for,
Right.
accessibility. My colleague who is GIF passionate, I think he'd almost not care about what the price is to make sure it's in his fridge, or wherever you put your peanut butter. I don't eat peanut butter, but anyway,
You
those
put
things.
peanut butter
Yeah.
in the fridge?
Not me. I don't
No.
know. I put everything in the
No.
fridge. I don't know. Whatever. It would
What?
take me a year to. I don't know. I don't eat peanut butter unless it's in chocolate ice cream with peanut butter chips. So no,
I
that's
do
a
like
whole
peanut
other.
butter.
Yeah. Well, there you
I'm a
go. I didn't
Smucker's
grow up
guy.
with peanut butter. What can I tell you? Anyway, here we are at the end
All
of
right.
another journey where we've covered lots of
Yes.
territory. So I want a global view when you come back, since you've just been in London, but also we really, as we think about what the year looks like and some of the new tensions, and then we'll share some of our new research, and you'll have lots more to talk about across your many and growing areas of control and
Yeah, it's
expertise.
exciting. It's an
It
exciting
is.
time to be in our industry, and
It sure
um,
is.
nice to see people leaning in and wanting to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as always, it was a pleasure. Easy travels home, and then we will talk from this side when you get here.
I can't wait. It'll be great.
So, with Justin, it's always a wonderful conversation because we just riff over the major topics that he is hearing in his broad platform around the world. As he told us, he was in London today as we spoke. Just think about some of these conversations. Yes, been talking a lot about AI. Yes, we continue to do that, and will on our upcoming podcast, the end of October. We're going to talk more about agentic AI and some of the case studies he will bring. But we talked about accessibility. We talked about speed to market. We talked about a lot of the things that companies are now doing beyond having a physical store on a corner to get delivery, speed it up, whether it's, Amazon improving its delivery, whether it's an Aldi or a Lidl moving into neighborhoods so people have access quickly. Of course, the AI tools, which allow us to find the right product for what we want really fast. And as he always tells us, there is an Amazon option. Click here. All of that is coming so fast. And even though we can't necessarily identify the value proposition right today, we all need to be experimenting in this space in whatever area you are, in insights, in marketing, supply chain, all of those areas. We all need to be experimenting to see what role this intelligence, this artificial intelligence, can play in our work. The other thing we talked a lot about was pricing and the complexity of pricing as we move not just through issues of tariffs and no tariffs, but also being on multiple platforms where now I can shop and have my agent find me the best product at the best price, right for me, right now, and click and have it delivered. So that whole challenge of how we think about pricing in the future is something he and I are going to talk about even more on different episodes, because it will become an incredibly important issue as we think about everywhere, everybody shops all the time, right? The movie title, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, is exactly the retail world we now live in. There's a lot going on here, including our upcoming How America Shops study, How America Shops in Chaos. Lots of great learning there. So stay tuned. Lots of future coming at you. See you then. Cheers for now.